Hello, Monsters Abound here, and welcome to Shores Unknown, developed by Valine, and published by Hitsense, I think, describing itself as a turn-based RPG in a rich, low-poly aesthetic. It's currently in early access on Steam, and I do like the aesthetic. It reminds me quite a bit of a prettier Final Fantasy VII, and in all honesty, the game feels quite Final Fantasy. You have a team of up to 5 characters which you can equip and level up. The story is pretty good, a bit chintzy in places so far, but I'm thoroughly invested. Started off as a simple investigation and suddenly you're on the run, all kinds of weird shenanigans are afoot, and you're hiding out in the basement, owned by the sexy mum of one of your party members. Although you are sharing it with a psychotic witch who has a corpse of a member of the Kingdom's Inquisition who you had to dispatch earlier as they tried to kill you and failed, and she's now doing something with it, but God knows who, but I guess you can't choose your neighbours. It seems like this basement can be upgraded and becomes your base, which is a nice touch. Love a bit of upgradable home base action, I do. Unfortunately, I haven't got much further than this, and I'll get round to that, because this is where it takes a bit of a downturn. My main problem is the combat. The combat itself is very Final Fantasy, minus any real strategy, unfortunately. You pick targets and order your party members to do certain attacks. Your basic attack increases action points and allows you to use other abilities in subsequent turns. You can see who will act during the turn, and once you've given your orders, away you go and battle takes place. The problem I have with that is that movement and positioning is entirely meaningless. You can target someone next to you or on the other side of the battlefield. It doesn't matter. Characters who attack each other become engaged, although quite what that does I'm not entirely sure. It seems like characters who are engaged, who get attacked by a third party, get a flanking attack, but again, I'm not quite sure what the benefit of that is. Because positioning is meaningless, it means that the AI may decide to just wail on your mage and kill him in the first turn. There's basically nothing you can do about it. The combat, therefore, is pretty brutal, and it really seems to me that you are either capable of completing an encounter or not. You have such limited actual agency that it feels like blind luck most of the time. The problem with this is the game is very linear. I did reach a point in the main quest, not far into the game, where the encounter was basically impossible to complete. The enemies were hitting far harder than I could and could summon more of themselves into battle. I tried the encounter 3 times before giving up, deciding I needed to level up more, but then I struggled to actually find any further quests in the area. There are no random encounters as far as I found, and so levelling up is not simply a case of wandering around in the long grass and grinding for a bit. Up to this point, I'd fought every battle, and so my characters were, in my opinion, about as leveled up as they could be. So the fact that I hit an encounter where I was just getting absolutely destroyed did feel pretty bad, especially because it wasn't even like a boss encounter, it was just a group of enemies on the road. Due to the way the combat plays out, characters are also moving all over the battlefield, often at random, and so keeping an eye on who is where, especially in a very busy battle, is a real struggle. If there is some scenery in the way, the constant bobbing backwards and forwards can be quite disruptive. I really wanted to like the combat, and early on it seemed like it might go somewhere interesting, but as it stands, where I'm currently in the game, it's fairly monotonous. Walking around the world is fine, but it can be a bit cluttered, and the map is zoomed in, so to not be much use. It's not hard to find your way around, but I often found myself a bit confused as to which direction I should be going. The world does look really nice, and there's plenty of interesting areas, but most of them don't seem to actually offer anything. There are plenty of instances where you're just running around for a while with no real reason. The first area has a small town, a cave, and a shoreline, but there's also quite a lot of other space where there just doesn't seem to be anything going on. And I would have liked it if maybe that had been a bit more fleshed out. Maybe there should have been a few other encounters to do, maybe a few smaller side quests, but really there wasn't anything there. Take for example, after the first area you're trying to get access to a ruined fort. You enter the area in front of the fort, a cutscene occurs and one of your party members offers to scope it out, and the rest count down for the day. After some discussion you then take control back of your party, and have to spend the next 20 to 30 seconds running around a large rock to get back to where you were before the cutscene. Why? I could understand if it was giving you a background view of the fort, showing you where you were heading, building some anticipation. But it was a rock. You couldn't see anything apart from the road ahead. It felt like totally meaningless gameplay. 20 to 30 seconds running around a rock. Why? What was the design choice there? It felt like totally meaningless gameplay, and not the only time you end up dealing with something like this in the game. Overall, I quite like Shores Unknown. I want to play more, but the combat difficulty has put me off. I also found a bug with a side quest, and as I'm struggling to complete the main quest with my current party, not being able to advance them in any way, it's kind of led me to hit a bit of a brick wall, which is a shame, because I would honestly want to know what happens next story-wise. As it stands, I can't really suggest you pick up Shores Unknown, unfortunately. It does currently have a mostly positive review rating on Steam, and it is in early access. So, with any luck, changes are being made, but most of the criticism I find seems to be based around the combat, which in an RPG is a good 50% of the game. So to fail at that point, I don't know if they can bring that around. I hope they can, because, say, like the aesthetic, would like to know more about what's going on in the storyline. If they can just sort of like maybe make that combat a little bit more fulfilling, then I'm back. I'm back, baby. I want to play some more of this, but until that point, I'm probably going to put this down. However, if you are interested in a turn-based tactical RPG, then maybe this is for you. I would certainly suggest checking out some other streams or videos before you make your choice. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.